So mindfulness is not what you think. And that's the point. One of the things with mindfulness is that with practice, it helps us let go of preconceptions. But the irony is that we need to push past some of those preconceptions in order to start or continue practice. So this session, we're going to be talking about how we can perhaps come at it from that angle, preconceptions that we need to check ourselves on, the things that we need to let go of so that they're not barriers. Why is that important? Because there are so many reasons to resist. There are so many trends and ideas about what it is, which we're going to be talking about. I think if you are somebody who feels like you can't meditate or it's not working, or you just don't know where to start, or you're skeptical and you would say, this isn't for me, I'm not that type of person, then this is an ideal place for you to start, because we're really talking about not just what mindfulness is, but what mindfulness isn't. I'm going to keep coming back to this idea about mindfulness being a parallel to life. And I hope that becomes more clear as I talk about it. But what we gain from our practice tends to be reflected in our life. And what we resist in our practice tends to be what we resist in life. So it's a really useful seed to plant. And we'll keep coming back to that and see how that plays out. Mindfulness is a practice, not a personality. And this section is really helpful for anyone who thinks they need to be a certain type of person in order to practice, right? My problem with the term to be spiritual is that we now think about that as an image or a style or an identity, which completely takes away from the essence of it. So the connotations behind the word spiritual have gotten so strong that if somebody was to ask me, is mindfulness spiritual? I would say, no, it's not, because that doesn't make sense. Let's be honest. Some of the stuff in this space has gotten weird. Right? The other day I was like scrolling and, I'm on a few conscious communities. You can see that people put their offers on there, and there's lots of people that do great stuff and represent the traditions. And I don't have any disrespect towards that. But I think sometimes the way that these things are positioned, people feel alienated. The language is overcomplicated. Sometimes it feels a little bit pretentious. Something came up where this guy was offering to fix women that had certain feelings towards men because of their bad experience. And I was like, oh, well, that feels a bit off for me. And of course, I look at the comments and there's a lot of women on there saying, no, that's not what we want. So I see it all the time, people positioning their offers in a certain way that people just don't connect to. Sometimes it feels like there's this competition to be like as abstract and as special as possible. I've been in yoga classes before where it just completely feels like a performance. I felt like we were combining lots of different things and I wasn't really sure why we were doing those things. And then she told us to actually hold up certain areas of your body. And I was like, where is that? And I can't even say it on camera what she was saying to hold up. And I was just like, is that even possible? And it feels like sometimes people are trying to get as close as the controversial mark as possible. And not all the time, like I want to stress that. However, there are moments where I've just felt like this is not for me. So I think we have to remind ourselves sometimes that none of these people are special. You are not special. You don't need to be special. You just need to be yourself. Dressing it up and romanticizing it completely contradicts the essence of mindfulness. And I can't remember exactly, I need to find the source of it and who quoted it. But it said, you don't meditate to become a better Buddhist. You meditate to become a better you, or something along those lines. And that's a really true reflection of what Zen promotes. You are simply just being with things as they are. It's self-observation for whatever is there in that moment, not to try and be somebody else or fit into some sort of label. The other thing I really like about Zen, and this is the area that I focus on, is that it's really about working with yourself. So that journey is obviously going to be completely unique to you, right? It's great to hear other people's stories and get inspiration, but you can't take somebody else's experience and feel like you can then fit into that and map onto that, right? You just have to see for yourself. It's really refreshing that we have something which contains that we should come away from over identifying and over attaching ourselves. So I love Buddhism. I think it's a beautiful religion and a way of life. I really resonate with all of the principles. Do I believe in all areas? No, not necessarily. Do I see myself above all committing to a path of enlightenment? I'll never say never, but like, no, not really. But what I love about mindfulness, you have a middle ground. So you are able to start seeing the things that hold us back in life and working with those things, whether it's your delusions, whether it's your emotions, and you can embrace those things and you can embrace being human, right? So it gives us something that helps us embrace our ordinary lives, but it keeps it ordinary. And the other thing I wrote is that mindfulness really allows me to just still be messy, still be raw, still be honest, but just in the most fruitful way, right? Yeah, it's actually authentic. And it's a shame that authenticity is probably one of those words that kind of overused that maybe people have a negative feeling towards now. But yeah, it's true. It allows you to just be very genuine. Why are these realizations important to our practice? Well, we want things to be accessible. It's true that we need to push our comfort boundaries to grow. And I think we should take a beginner's mind to things. And that's something that we're going to talk more about later. But if you do that and you're open and you're curious and it still feels very alien, it's okay to take a step back and find a different option, a different teacher, a different route. Because I think when that discomfort comes from disconnection and not challenge, then it's unrelatable. How can you ever apply what you learn if it's so alien? How can you ever connect that to your real life? So this brings us really nicely onto the next point. Real life is not aesthetic. So why should your practice be? This point is super helpful for anybody who finds it difficult to stick with their practice in particular. The key here is really everyday simplicity. It's realizing that there is no fix. There's no event. Mindfulness is this ongoing relationship. It's a long-term process. It's a skill. We are so obsessed with accessories and novelties. And I am as guilty as anybody else. I love doing yoga on a rooftop when I'm away somewhere on the tropics. And, I see the people floating with their eye masks on their waterbed, listening to a sound bath in somewhere else across the world. And I'm like, well, I'll save that. You never know. But realistically, past the novelties and the fun events, we can't do those every day, right? So really, is it just another distraction? And if you think that you need all these things in order to practice being present, how is that ever sustainable? If mindfulness only works in somewhere like Bali, it's not mindfulness, it's just a holiday. But we see it in our everyday, waiting to have the right time of the day, waiting for it to be completely quiet. And if you keep waiting for the vibe to be right to practice, you'll keep showing up in your life in the same way, right? So mindfulness isn't an event. And you absolutely do not need a retreat to start it. And in fact, a retreat is not going to change anything in your life over the long term. Sustainable, small shifts, everyday habits. We know this. So there's a real motivation for not starting big. Like, think of anything that you've tried to start. For a lot of people, it's getting back into exercise, it's going running. And what do? We always overshoot. And really, chasing that goal is just chasing a quick fix again, right? Because the habit shouldn't feel like a big thing each time. If you start running for 45 minutes a day when you're going from zero, you are not going to stick to that. We want to be able to slowly expand our capacity. That's what you do with mindfulness. This is something we can talk about in the future. It's like when you slowly build a muscle. We're not trying to fill our capacity even further. Because if you keep saying like, oh, I'm going to go meditate for like 2 hours a day when you start, or if you say, I'm going to go on like a 3-week retreat, then you're going to create your own resistance to it. It's the everyday integration, because there is no magic in one session. There is in repetition. Let's stick to the stuff that works in our schedule. If it's boring, good. Get to know boring. So really, we're starting to see this continuous theme running through these points. You don't meditate to escape or do something extra or outside of life. You meditate to show up. So we need to stop kind of glamming it up, and let's just come back to being real and actually celebrate being ordinary. You can start with just minutes a day, remembering that we're zoning in, we're not zoning out. We're zoning into life. We're learning to let life flow, but just with less pain, maybe more satisfaction, and maybe even more sense of direction. You're not bad at mindfulness. You're just used to performing. Following from that phrase I just said about zoning in and not zoning out, there is no special zoned out place that we want to be getting to. Sure, it's possible, but we have to stop trying to get there. One of the key things that people say to me, I can't meditate, I just can't get to that place, or I can't turn off my thoughts. The thing with mindfulness is that we're not trying to detach from life or escape it. You want to see what's there. So you're not trying to get away from your thoughts. You want to see what thoughts are there. Mindfulness is all about your relationship with things. Take a minute to think about this. I bet you that everything that you do in your days ultimately is laced with this need or effort to perform. Everything you do in life is to perform. That's affected some of us more than others, depending on our experience. But it's really like the main challenge of the modern day is that we're programmed to do all of the time. And this is where I really want to come back to that idea, that parallel of mindfulness and life, because mindfulness actually teaches us just to be. That's when we're so used to performing, it's a very difficult concept to sit there and just be and not expecting something to happen. Every time you try to get somewhere with mindfulness, you've turned in the opposite direction. What you know about approaching things, this is different. This is the opposite, right? And that's the point. You would have heard of all of the amazing benefits of mindfulness. We talked about it in the last session, a lot of the changes I've seen in my life because of it. Those benefits are really a byproduct. It's not because I've chased after any of those benefits. We have to keep coming away from this idea that we are performing at it, that we're doing well, we're not doing well, because mindfulness ultimately isn't about staying awake. It's learning to catch yourself when you're asleep. So it's something you do over and over again. It's not somewhere you get. You sit down and you feel, this is pointless. I need to be somewhere else. This isn't working. Notice that. If you feel you can't meditate, good. Feel that. Notice the feeling, right? I always think about this example recently of going to a family event, and it was a little bit rushed before, and I hadn't done my morning meditation. And like I say, promote doing it like wherever you can, because life isn't perfect. So I thought, okay, I'll do it in the car on the way to the event. I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to one of my teacher's recordings actually. And I realized I'd forgotten my headphones. And I was really looking forward to listening to his voice, his relaxing voice, and just taking my meditation time. Just going to meditate on my frustration. Whatever you're feeling, notice that feeling. If you doubt yourself, meditate on the doubt, right? If you have an urge to move, if you're feeling the impatience, meditate on it. You can't wait for the perfect moment, and what you sort of learn in your practice, you start to project in your life. So you're not just meditating formally every day. And again, that's not a big thing. That's 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. But you're also bringing that mindfulness into your everyday reaction. That's where it needs to be relatable. That's where it needs to be integrated. And that's why it needs to not be a performance, because you realize that life isn't a performance. And you just need to recognize what is there more so you can work with it rather than trying to be somewhere else. The quality of Zen, which is called beginner's mind, and it's essentially approaching things with openness, with curiosity, lowering your expectations. So I think this really nicely weaves together all of the points that we've explored and says, you're not supposed to be good at this. You're just meant to observe. You're just meant to try. And you're just meant to be open to that experience. You're going to have to keep refreshing your beginner's mind, right? Because we have very strong tendencies to judge everything. So we'll start judging our experience, and then you'll realize that you're judging, and then you'll start judging yourself. So it's a layering over and over and over that you have to keep unpeeling, to keep refreshing your beginner's mind. And often we get so put off when we do something, or we write something off very early on. And it's not because it doesn't work. It's because we get so attached to our first reaction. You have to have a certain level of trust in the process. There's been the odd occasion where someone has said to me, meditating won't solve my problems. I think it's a really interesting comment to explore, because ultimately your problems are partly subjective. You can be very convinced by your own perceptions. The moments that I'm incredibly moody, I will always think, oh, this is not going to get better. But it's learning to realize that there's not always truth in all of our perceptions and everything that we think. I know that feeling of being so convinced by what we believe in our current moment, in our current state, that it's hard to think that things can ever be different. There has to be this element of trust that no matter what you're feeling, no matter how strongly you're feeling that that is a truth, that your problems can't change, that this can have an incredible impact if you put the trust in and if you just follow the process. So what I really wanted to do is, with there being so much about self-development and performance and skills, is say, is there a different way we can go about this that essentially looks at some of the softer, more raw skills that you can develop through practices like this, that then changes how you show up in life?